Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Everyone welcome. Surah Ra'd, chapter 13. We will cover verses 14 to 17 today. And these are the references. And this is our contact in case anyone has a question or query regarding this presentation. This is for those people who are going to watch this presentation on YouTube. Quick recap so far. First is those looking for the purpose of human creation should know that the visible universe, which includes the earth, is created for human beings as they possess choice and intent. Its order and precise functioning is a sign for us to reflect further in the physical world around us. Now, this point I know we have gone through it numerous times before as well, but it is just to remind ourselves that physical world around us has plenty of signs to draw our attention. Since human beings possess latent potentials, hence the world is created with both physical signs and cognitive signs so that each human being can bring out their best by reflecting and reasoning on the world around them and a bigger world within them. At this point, we should keep it in mind. We have gone over it as well previously that we have certain potentials, and these potentials are in a latent form. Some of those potentials come out even if we don't come to the Quran, but a lot of these potentials are such which can only come out once we come to the Quran. And physical signs and cognitive signs within us, these help us to explore these potentials. For this, they are provided access to knowledge based on their perceptive faculties, and as a choice, they are also provided access to the knowledge of Wahi from Allah, i.e. the Quran. So knowledge has two forms. One is the perceptive knowledge, which we observe using our five senses and through our experiences in our life. And that knowledge is known to us. All these books throughout the world are based on that knowledge. But the knowledge of Wahi comes down from the direction of Allah and it comes from outside. Human intellect cannot figure out the values and what is given in the Quran at its own. So we need guidance because we don't have inner guidance. We have choice and intent. By employing both, they can reach that destination which Allah as Rabb has clearly defined for them in the Quran. We have again looked at it previously as well that Allah as Rabb has defined a destination for everything which He has created. And the same goes for human beings as well. And the divine of Rabb deals with that, which means drawing our attention towards Rububiyyat, the nourishment and development of everything in the universe. Next is then our attention is drawn towards the outer world where each and everything carries the hallmark of Rabbil Alameen, i.e. the thought behind this creation, and if we pay attention to it, then essentially we simply cannot miss the Rububiyyat in the universe and can then find out the need for this Rububiyyat in the human world. And if you remember, this term was used in our previous presentation, Bilaqai Rabbikum Tuqinun, and that is how we establish or we develop our conviction in Rububiyyat in the world, that it is a process through which we convince ourselves. Next is the way the outer world is based on the laws of Allah. So there is another law operating in the human world, which is Inna Allaha la yugayyiru ma bi qawmin hatta yugayyiru ma bi anfusihim. We went over it in detail in our previous presentation that the state of a nation, state of a people is never changed by Allah until they change what is within their own psyche. Understanding the functioning of this law is crucial as Mu'min and Muttaqi, because Quran puts facts in a very concrete form in front of us. And these are all based on evidence. If we cannot see the evidence at our present level, then we should make an effort to find out the evidence, find out the facts. We should discover it. Now over here, I've drawn a schematic. There is enough to reflect in our world. This has been in my mind for some time, and I made an attempt here, and I hope I have successfully done it, but there is probably some aspects which probably may be added later on. First is universe created for man to help develop himself, Wahi provided for guidance. Now this is a statement of fact. Being physical, Adam is placed on the planet Earth, which is prepared for his sustenance, enough potential challenges for his self-development. So Earth was already prepared before Adam disappeared on the screen. He appeared on the horizon of the Earth, and there are verses related to that in the Quran. So everything was placed over here in terms of his sustenance and his needs, both for the self as well as for his physical need. For the self, of course, he was provided with. Man provided intellect and reasoning to differentiate between his animalistic side and his self. We know we have an animalistic side, which is our physical self, and we can relate it to the animals around us, but we also have a self. So we have intellect to differentiate between the two, which animals cannot do. Over here, I've put this picture, planet inhabited with numerous forms of life, but without choice and intent to provide signs for man to think and reason. So this is important for us, that these are the signs dispersed throughout the earth, and we should not ignore them. We should try to look at them, that what is there beyond their appearance around us. Next is there is a water cycle. We know it, we get benefit out of it. One obvious sign is the hydrological cycle. It is combined with winds and currents, the sun, the moon, the gravity, tides, and everything which is related to that, and we know a lot about it. Next is there are two types of energies as well, and non-renewable and renewable, because what we have been provided, some of these things are finite, but we have to turn them into sustainable entities. And for that, we have been given intellect and reasoning, and we think over it, and there is a lot going on in this area. Next is the land, earth will always remain basic means of sustenance. And to this, Quran has drawn our attention repeatedly that earth is a place of abode for this stage of human life. And everything is dependent directly and indirectly on the resources of the earth. Communication owes it to human intellect, utilizing human potential bestowed by Allah. We have seen how much human intellect has contributed to this aspect of communication. And then the technology, various facets right in front of us. And this all has been created by man using his intellect and his reasoning abilities. It is surprising if there are problems in this world that the same mind, intellect and reasoning, can create all this but can't solve this. So this is the point which we should keep it in mind, that whatever is around us, there are signs, and these signs point towards problems as well as solutions. Fight today for a tomorrow. Now, basic issues of equitable distribution of sustenance are the ones which are facing us. We have enough resources in the land, on the planet Earth, but we are not distributing them equitably, and as a result, there is a tussle going on between haves and have-nots. And see, fight today for a tomorrow, when ordinary human beings, in the absence of wahi, think, they don't think of tomorrow, which includes the hereafter. So this is an important point. We should also keep it in mind. Next is, without the light of wahi, the Quran, man will always be looking for the purpose of his creation and life, no relief from fear and grief. And this point we have discussed before as well, and it will keep coming back, because Quran has said, without wahi, human world will always be full of fear and grief. Next is two paths of life defined: the path of shaitan, unguided desires, or the path of Allah, which is guided desires. The Quran is for the path of Allah. Physical death is universal. So these are what I've done over here is I tried to depict is that there is an outer world and there is a world within us. And both these worlds should be before us as students of the Quran to understand the reality of our existence. And for most, life will end with death, an uncomfortable fact. We like it or don't like it, the life which is defined by the Quran is different from the life which we define for ourselves without the Quran. Now let's go to the first verse for today, verse 14. Lahu da'watul haqqi wallazina yaduna min dunihi la yastajibuna lahum bishayin illa kabasite kaffaihi ilal ma'i li yabluga fahu wa mahu bibalighihi wa ma dua al kafirina illa fi zalal. We have looked at this verse previous as well under the context of dua. Translation of the verse is, for him is dua in haqq. Any others that they call upon besides him hear them no more than if they were to stretch forth their hands for water to reach their mouths, but it reaches them not. For dua of those who are kafirin is nothing but leads to misguidance. It's very interesting. We'll go over this part, وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ, in slightly more detail. The meanings of the verse are, these are taken from Mafhumul Quran. Hence, the nation that desires that its endeavors produce constructive results should obey his laws, because every desire to produce a constructive result is connected to his law. By rejecting his law, for those people who desire to produce constructive results via someone else's law, this desire and effort of theirs will go to waste. Just like the desire and effort of that individual goes to waste who, by holding out his hand from a distance, desires that water should reach his mouth by itself naturally. Even though water can never reach his lips like this is against the law of Allah. Therefore, the desires of those who reject his law can never bear fruit. When Quran talks of these facts, then we should keep it in mind, the higher purpose of our life, and of course take into account the hereafter as well. Now over here is some further reflection on وَمَا دُعَاءُ الْكَافِرِينَ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ. The first one, I have quoted a verse here, لَيْسَ بِأَمَنِيِّكُمْ وَلَا أَمَنِيِّ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ مَنْ يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا يُجْزَ بِهِ وَلَا يَجِدْ لَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَلِيًّا وَلَا نَصِيرًا. Surah Nisa's verse, comprehend this reality clearly, that the bounties of life are neither acquired according to your wishes. So the world doesn't work according to our wishes, nor of the wishes of the opponents, and the opponents who are not on the Quran. In this, there is no question of individual emotions. This is all according to one established and immutable law, and that law is this, that whoever will adopt the wrong path will reap its consequences. So we can follow our wishes, but we cannot alter the effects of following those wishes. The consequences will tell us which side we are heading. We can make any amount of effort to find such a friend and helper who could save him from devastations. This will never happen. Only the law of Allah, from which he transgressed, could save him. And the next one is in continuation of the same verse, مَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَىٰ وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةَ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا. Contrary to this, the person who has conviction in the law of Allah and is acting on the program of development put forward by Allah, whether man or woman. It's beautiful that the Quran puts man and woman at an equitable level, because both possess self, both come to this life exactly the same way, but they have a role within the physical domain. But at a self level, they are exactly the same. Such people will be imparted with the bounties of life, and nothing will be diminished in the outcomes of their efforts. Doing like this would be injustice, and Allah does not do zulm to anyone. Now, reflecting on the psychology of dua. This verse points to an important aspect of supplication to Allah and also explains in general the issues of our desires. It also explains the functioning of the law of requital, because Quran very clearly says, لِتُجْزَى كُلُّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ, that every nafs who possesses choice and intent is going to be accountable or going to reap the benefits or loss of their own deeds. Kasabat, very important, that whatever we do in this life is going to bear results. And if we don't do anything, then we'll get nothing. This verse is to be read in conjunction with the verse 2:186. We have gone through this verse previously as well. وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي أَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. If you remember, what it says is that when, and it is addressed to Rasulullah, that when my servants ask me about something, then I am very close to them. That if they are doing a dua, supplication, then tell them that I am close to them and I listen to their dua. And the important thing is that their dua will be accepted if they follow that path which is of rushd. First they should have iman, and then they should follow that particular path. And if you remember, this is covered beautifully in verse 2 to 56 of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Quran says, La ikraha fid din, qad tabayyana rushd min al-ghayy, where the paths of rushd and the wrong paths have been clearly lighted, clearly defined. It seems apparently obvious, but most human beings, especially those under the spell of religious beliefs, still fall prey to this belief that our prayers are somehow being accepted. This is a terrible illusion in which human beings suffer under their emotional spell, that they think that whatever they are praying, these are going to be accepted. And if those some events take place in their life because of the capitalist system, they start relating it to as if Allah has accepted their wishes or their prayers. And this confusion has to be sorted out by us as students of Quran, and we should also explain it to others. That in this life, whatever we do has consequences. And we try to relate their acceptance to what we obtain via the capitalist system. If we do not understand the true physiology of the concept of dua, we can never come to the Quran because we cannot come to grips with its haqq. We simply cannot obtain the maximum from our potentials if there is no unity of thought and a clear aim in front. So because what Quran does is that it clearly spells out that what should be the purpose of our life, which is, i.e., to get onto Sirat al-Mustaqim and then carry out those responsibilities in this world which Allah has taken on Himself. And the procedure and the laws and values are given in the Quran in detail. The pattern of our thinking and choices defines us. Our deeds lead to changing the world in which we live. Our dua is based on this value, Inna Allaha la yugayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yugayyiru ma bi anfusihim. That Allah does not change the state of a nation unless people change what is within their own psyche. So we have to change our own cognitive build-up, our own inner self, our own line of thinking, i.e. changing our inner psyche. Understanding this is understanding our own self and its potentials. So when we understand this, we essentially are understanding our own inner world. This is a human world in which human beings are totally free to make their decisions. The correct concept of dua leads to comprehending our own significance in relation to bringing about change in the outer world. Now let us look at the next verse, which is 15th. وَلِلَّهِ يَسْجُدُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَظِلَالُهُمْ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. Very interesting verse because I have highlighted these 2 points down, وَكَرْهًا and وَظِلَالُهُمْ, and I'll expand on that. These people who reject our law, do they not see that whoever is in the highs and lows of the heavens, they are willingly or unwillingly bowing their head in acceptance before our law? So I've taken this because Allama Pervez has translated it as highs and lows, and I liked it because the samawati wal ard, because it's a relative term. The sama is higher and ard is something which is in relation to that as lower. If these people do not wish to witness the great things of the universe, then they should at the very least reflect on their own body, which is under the obedience of the physical law of Allah. Next one is they should observe how their shadow is in one direction from morning till noon and then remains in the other direction from noon till evening. Do they have control over this, that they can change the direction of this shadow? These people will accept this point that they do not have any control over changing it, but they will not accept this, that the law of Allah standing beyond the shadow is also applicable to their self as well as on human society. If we look at our shadow, it looks not very important. Okay, we are a physical being and we will have a shadow. But over here, the Quran has drawn our attention that whatever is happening around us is drawing our attention. These are signs of Allah, and we should look into it, that what this shadow is trying to tell us. And there is some more explanation of that. Everything in the universe is following the laws of Allah. Now, first verse I have quoted over here is أَفَغَيْرَ دِينَ اللَّهِ يَبْغُونَ وَلَهُ أَسْلَمَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ طَوْعًا وَكَرْهًا وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ. Do they seek for other than the deen of Allah? Because everything in the universe, including our physical self, is following His laws. While all creatures in the heavens and on earth have willing or unwilling bowed to His will, and to Him shall they be brought back. This willing and unwilling is essentially drawing our attention, because we are the ones who can be willing or unwilling. Otherwise, in the physical world, in the animalistic world, everything is following his laws willingly. ثم استوى إلى السماء فهي دخان فقال لها وللأرض أتيا طوعا وكرها قالتا أتينا طائعين. In the same way, Allah directed his intent towards the stellar bodies. So now Quran is drawing our attention to the outer world. At the time, it was as nebulae, and it was consisting of smoke, gas. This is drawing our attention to the initial creation of the stellar bodies. Hence, we asked them and the earth that you follow our laws, again willing and unwilling. They said, why unwillingly? We will obey these laws willingly. And this is what I have already said under the previous verse, that everything outside is following willingly. It is only human beings who have choice and intent that they go against Allah's laws willingly. Now, we will look at some more aspects or reflections on verse 15. First one is by stating Ta'un wa Karhan, the Quran has drawn our attention to the functioning of the system of the universe and life on planet Earth. For example, our body follows physical laws strictly. So our body follows not Karhan but Ta'un. That whatever we eat and drink and do exercises, our body is in response to that, it develops accordingly. Whatever we eat has an impact on our body, whether we like it or not. Physical death will come to all of us. So we will face the death. Over here, of course, is Karhan, that we don't want to die, and now we are going to die. It is, we can say that both willing and unwilling is coming into it. The law of Mukafat will decide the fate of ourselves in the life of the hereafter. The consequence of a deed commences immediately after it is carried out in the outer world. So again, this is all being done willingly. The law of Mukafat is willingly working. It is not going to spare any of our thoughts and deeds. The Quran invites us to become willing companions on the path of Allah in order to draw all benefits associated with this supreme companionship. This will fulfill the purpose of our creation as a being with a self and intent. This is interesting over here, that we are, if we become willing companions, then of course there are significant advantages with that. And our potentials, the latent potentials, start manifesting themselves in the light of the Quranic value system. But if we are unwilling, and obviously we will live this life as we wish, but we will not get the benefits of the hereafter. So that is the point. And also our self will not be of that level which can get those benefits which a willing self will get by following the path of Allah. The metaphor of shadow merits further reflection. It goes wherever we go. Very interesting that it goes wherever we go and we do not have any control over it. A shadow only appears when there is light. So if there is no light at night, there is no shadow unless there is a moonlight. A simple phenomena as a sign through which the Quran draws our attention. Our deeds are like our shadows, which go with us wherever we go in our life. Good deeds cast a different shadow from wrong deeds. Of course, as far as the physical being is concerned, the shadow will remain the same. But if we relate it to the kind of deeds we are doing, then of course, the invisible shadows will be different. And we need the light of the Quran to see them around us. If we do not have the light of the Quran, we will think that there is no accountability in this life and we can do whatever we like. And this is the state of those around us in the world who are acting as if there is no accountability. And next is the Quran calls our deeds as كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا فَأَخَذَهُمُ اللَّهُ بِذُنُوبِهِمْ. The word used over here, whose root is zam, as zambin, something which is chasing us, are attached to us like the tail of an animal. So we can say that shadow is part of that kind of illustration or metaphor. A shadow is part of physical existence and it moves with us wherever we go. Next is verse 16. قُلْ مَنْ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ قُلْ لِلَّهُ قُلْ أَفَتَخَذْتُم مِّن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ لَا يَمْلِكُونَ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ نَفْعًا وَلَا ضَرًّا قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الْأَعْمَى وَالْبَصِيرُ أَمْ هَلْ تَسْتَوِي الظُّلُمَاتُ وَالنُّورُ أَمْ جَعَلُوا لِلَّهِ شُرَكَاءَ خَلَقُوا كَخَلْقِهِ فَتَشَابَهَ الْخَلْقُ عَلَيْهِمْ قُلِ اللَّهُ خَالِقُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Quite a long verse, and a number of points are covered in this verse. The consequence of this mentality of theirs is that if you ask them whose law is operating in the external world, the earth and the heavens, then in the same way that you proclaim, they will also assert that only the law of Allah is established and functioning there. Next is say to them, then why do you, forsaking his laws, that is ignoring his laws, make other forces your map in your internal world, the state of whose helplessness is such that, leaving aside others, these do not even possess the authority for the benefit and loss of their own being. Then you accept Allah as the Ilah of the heavens, then why do you not accept him as the Ilah of the earth? After presenting these evidences, ask them, can the blind and the seeing be equal? Or is it possible that darkness and light can become identical? Or ask them that those entities which they assign as partners in the functioning of Allah, have they produced any creation like Allah's creation? And whether the creation of both matches with the other, as a result of which they have arrived at this conclusion that Allah is not one, but that there are others like him? Announce to them that this belief of theirs is batil. Allah alone is the creator of everything. He is unparalleled and unique and the sole possessor of all powers and supreme over everything. Now we will look at some of these points in more detail. The Quran invites us to compare and contrast and then judge. First, I have quoted a verse 4384, very famous. We have gone over it, I think, previously as well. وَهُوَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَٰهٌ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَٰهٌ وَهُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْعَلِيمُ. If we remember, in this verse, Quran has drawn our attention that Allah is Ilah of the outer world, universe, and of our earth as well, where we as human beings are residing. So Quran is drawing our attention that we should, while we recognize that Allah's laws are working in the outer universe, which we call laws of nature, we should use his laws and values within our human world as well. Because if we do not, then we will not get the benefits of his being Hakim and Alim. This warning is from that Allah whose law is working in the external universe and also in the human world. The control and authority of the whole universe is in his hand, and all this organization and functioning is based on knowledge and wisdom. So accepting him as Ilah of the outer world is part of the reality. If we do not accept his laws within human world, then of course we will always have fear and grief, and we will have chaos and conflict. I've quoted the 3 verses over here. وَمَا يَسْتَوِي الْأَعْمَى وَالْبَصِيرُ وَلَا الظُّلُمَاتُ وَلَا النُّورُ وَلَا الظِّلُّ وَلَا الْحَرُورُ. Now both these categories have appeared before you. One is that which treads on the right path in the light of the way of Allah, and the other that which adopts the wrong path for its vested interest. So we see in the word that those who have vested interest, and because of that other human beings suffer, they do not want to follow the path of Wahi. Do you think these 2 groups will be equal in terms of their deeds and their outcomes? Before replying to this, tell us that is being blind and seeing the same? Very interesting that Allah has given us mind as well as eyes. And of course, we got other senses as well. And if we do not utilize them effectively, then essentially we are not seeing. We are just behaving like animals, or we are just pursuing our own desire. And we need eyes, we need brain, as well as we need light. And light over here, of course, in the physical world, we need light to look around and see the world in which we work. But light over here is meant to be Wahi of Allah. Is darkness and light alike? And Quran points to that. And then it says, is sunshine and shadow the same? And then this should be seen within the perspective of Haqq and Batil. Now verse 13-16, more elaboration. First is, this verse starts by reminding us about the importance of the divine attribute of Rabb. Qul man rabbus samawati wal ardi qul lillah. Everything in the universe is carefully created with a purpose behind its creation. Hard to deny this fact as based on evidence. We can deny these things, particularly those who have acquired some kind of a knowledge and education in our life and who are questioning the purpose of their life. We can't miss it. And if we intensely focus on that at some stage we will reach this conclusion that there is far higher purpose to our life than merely just living it on a day-to-day basis at animalistic level. And we need to inspect that purpose and determine the destination for this thing. This includes virtually everything which we have discovered and those which are not yet discovered. Next is in connection with our own creation and the issues related to our self's development. By mentioning Rabb, our attention is drawn towards Rububiyyat as a value. We need to remind ourselves that we are the addressee of this verse, i.e. our faculties of intellect and reasoning need to be utilized to understand what is being said next. Next is أَفَاتَّخَذْتُم مِّن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ لَا يَمْلِكُونَ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ نَفْعًا وَلَا ضَرًّا. This is an important point to which our attention is directed. That these people whose laws you follow, whose subjugation you accept, whose slavery you accept willingly, just look at what they are. They are human beings like us. How can their nafan wala darran can affect us if we think through it carefully? Allah here is focusing our attention as mu'mineen on this fact that once we have accepted Iman, we have set out on Sirat al-Mustaqim. So what we have done is we have come to a different path than theirs. And once we are on this path, then we start to see the reality of things around us. And we need to convince ourselves that this path provides security and freedom from fear as we keep on developing ourselves. So Quran is inviting our attention to a very refined aspects of our existence and the working of human beings. That these guys cannot harm you if you come to the Quranic path and try to understand it, that if we follow the procedure and laws which are given in the Quran, then we essentially become separated and are on a different path. Of course, we are living among them because it is only through death, through human system, that the system of Allah is going to emerge or going to arise or grow. Further reflections. The next part refers to a comparison between the one who sees and the one who is blind. The Quran helps us to observe those aspects of our life and of others which remain obscured from our eyes. The Quran calls itself light. And when light arrives, darkness disappears. So over here, Hal yastavil ama wal basiru am hal tastavil zulumatu wal nur. And this is the thread which runs throughout the Quran, that Quran presents the examples of those people who do not come to the Quran and who live life at animalistic level as blind, and those who have come to the Quran as those who are seeing. And animalistic life, the Quran calls as darknesses, and the light of the Quran it calls nur, under which then those people who were in darkness come to the light. So Sirat al-Mustaqim is essentially a path which is lit by Allah's wahi. We also need to compare our previous state divide of Iman and our present state with Iman. And the difference between the two will help to appreciate the expense acquired by our consciousness. So there is a subtle point over here that we can also see the blindness with which we suffered before we came to the Quran, and also the darknesses in which we lived. And for example, the presentation yesterday by Brother Mumtaz was, there were 20 darknesses which he discussed and said that all these beliefs are against the Quran. And I made a comment over there that if we have those 20 beliefs in our head, then our mind is highly contaminated. And with that contaminated mind, how can we get maximum benefit out of our potentials in this life? We can't even bring out those potentials. So these beliefs are our burdens, and those burdens we have to get rid of them using the Quranic life. Next is Allah waliyul lazina amanu yukhrijuhum minal zulumati ilan nur. I quoted this verse from Surah Al-Baqarah just to bring out another important point related to zulumat and nur. This part of the verse points to this fact that when we are exposed to the light of the Quran and we decide to hold on to this rope of Allah, then essentially we have given up all other idols in our life. And Quran says, وَتَعْصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, that you should come together and remove your cognitive dissonances so that you can benefit from the light of the Quran. And differences which exist at our default cognitive state start to disappear. And when hearts become united, then we essentially enter the next stage of becoming companions of Allah. Very important, very elevated status human beings get. Its eminence goes sky high. Doubts can arise here about how this can be applicable to me. We need to remove these doubts by checking with the Quranic criterion of Iman and Salih deeds. This is important that as we progress on this Sirat al-Mustaqim, on this path, using the Quranic criteria, doubts can arise that am I on the right path? So our job is to keep going back to the Quran again and again and check that the changes which are taking place within ourselves, are these compatible with the values which the Quran is professing to us, is telling us. Secondly, we need to see whether on this platform we are making progress in enhancing our understanding further by sharing these talks based on pure Quran. So it's important that we also come together and discuss these, because not discussing these and then just keeping it to ourselves, the self is not going to develop. It needs some kind of challenges. It needs to discuss. It needs to bring out its best. Thirdly, the Quran is for human beings like each one of us. Thus, we should never devalue our own significance as human beings. We have an extremely high value, which is undefined by the Quran, because the same value which is going to multiply and keep on expanding in the life of the hereafter. So we should feel that kind of a pride under inverted commas, where we are increasing our own value. And that value we are increasing in the light of the Quran, utilizing its value system. Also, after acquiring Iman, we have witnessed the potentials manifesting which were previously hidden from us. Now, next comment is under the same verse 16. The next part of the verse draws our attention towards creation as a value when it says, Am ja'alullahi shuraka'a khalaqu ka khalqihi fatashabahal khalqu alayhim. This evidence-based fact provides assurance to our heart and mind that we must make sure to avoid shirk of any form in our mind so that we can remain focused on the Quran. And so an interesting part is that our metacognitive ability is amazing, and we question Allah's rububiyyat using this very potential instead of using it to determine the facts. We have been given this metacognitive ability of thinking about thinking, and we should look at it that who has given it? How did it appear within us? And if we use that thinking about thinking ability to question our own purpose, and of course looking into the Quran, then we will come to this conclusion that this metacognitive ability has tremendous potentials which need to be expanded. So what we look around shuraka are that those people who are around us and not coming to the Quran, but they are in a position of power and they have created a world around us. We should look at them very critically in the light of this verse and many other verses like that, that what exactly they are creating, what exactly the mess they are creating in the world. Can this be stopped? Can we have a better world than the one we have around us? And that is where the answer lies, to come to the Quran and then look at these verses and develop our conviction. We live in a domain of khalq, where signs of Allah containing His thought are everywhere. Everything around us contains Allah's thoughts. A tree which develops or grows from a seed and turns into and brings out the fruits. And then we should look at the directive energy with which the whole universe has been created. And this is the word of khalq. It is the word of creation in which we are living. And we should relate everything back to Allah all the time. And this includes our own physical self. We should keep drawing strength from this. And this will give us that strength that we are not alone. Once we come to the Quran, we are not alone. We are essentially the companion of Allah, because He is the one who has brought us out of darknesses into light. This verse is beautifully summed up by declaring, Allahu khaliqu kulli shay'in wa huwal wahidul qahhar. Everything is created by Allah and is based on evidence. And this includes our cognitive abilities, all our latent potentials for each one of us. By pointing to Tawheed, which is Wahid over here, and attribute of Qahar, which is an extreme force which is used to carry out His plans. Allah has made us cognizant of this fact that if we choose to follow the path defined by Him as Rabb, then nothing can stop us from accomplishing our goal, as this is in line with the purpose of our creation. We will keep getting necessary support as we progress on this path together. It's a very progressive path, very slowly, step by step, we have to go forward, because human cognitive abilities, these develop step by step. We are trying to understand the ultimate reality from the status of our own reality. And by parts, we progress further. So it is important for us to be patient, but at the same time, to be steadfast. Now let us come to the last verse of today's presentation, which is 17. Anzala minas samai man fasalat awdiyatun biqadariha fatahmalat sailo zabadan rabian wa mimma yukiduna alayhi fin nar ibtigha hilyatin aw mata'in zabadun mithluhu kadhalika yadribullahu al-haqqa wal batila fa amma zabadu fa yazhabu jifaan وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ. Number of points in this verse which need our attention. We have gone over it previously as well, but today we will go through it in slightly more detail. So the first one is the qadareha, which means that everything has scaling in the word, which is qadar. And then al-haqq wal batilo, that the examples over here are given in relation to differentiating between haqq and batil. And then I will go over this part in more detail. وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Now what remains is that if it is a fact that everything in the universe is all creation, then why is it that together with clear and clean water, there is also debris, and together with conveniences, there are also inconveniences. With khair, there is shar too, and together with haqq, there is also batil. Say to them that this is because the law of the tussle between haqq and batil is functioning here. Because Allah has created this system so that we can bring the best out of us. There are certain potentials within us. These cannot come out unless these are confronted. And this point has been discussed by Dr. Hamid as well in a number of his presentations. And through this tussle, the universe advances forward by traversing its stages of evolution. You can understand it through an example like this. He sends down rain from the clouds, and streams and rivers start to flow according to their capacity. Due to the flow of water, the dirt and debris from the land rises to the surface as a foam. This is an observed phenomenon. We see it in our life. And the torrent of the flood sweeps it away, and the land becomes spruce and clean. Or consider it like this, that when ore is heated, that is raw ore of any metal is heated in fire so that ornaments and other necessary things can be made from it, its impurities rise to the surface like foam, and the pure metal remains beneath. In the same way, in the universe, according to Allah's law of tussle, constructive forces continually collide with destructive forces, and the destructive forces go to waste like scum. And that which is beneficial for mankind remains behind. This is Allah's law of elimination and establishment. So essentially, this is a law of rise and fall of nations. And this we can witness it around our world, particularly at present time. There's a lot going on. Two metaphors, two different aspects. First is metaphor one. We witness this phenomena that due to heavy rains coming down from sky, the water floods the land and flows downhill, and as a consequence, all debris and rubbish washes away, and gradually the remaining part of the flood contains less of this. This is the natural, progressive way of moving forward in the human world without the guidance of will. This is the condition of the world around us, where through trials and tribulations, and these trials and tribulations are like chaos, conflicts, wars, regime changes, economic upheavals, and we can add to it as many as we want. The caravan of mankind is living its life. So caravan of mankind is still moving forward. A day comes, day goes. A night comes, night goes. The old are dying away while the youth are quietly replacing them, very much a physical process in the domain of creation. We are all getting old, and new generation is coming over to take our place. And then they will disappear and more will follow them. Note coming down from sky like sanding down of the Quran. Then streams develop as per scaling, equivalent is humans receiving guidance according to their desire and need. So we can say that Quran is also drawing our attention to the sanding down of the Quran, but human beings not following it. So their life is just like floods. Next metaphor is when human beings discover a metal ore. Now over here, see, human effort is involved in it. And then using their intellect and reasoning, melt it in fire. Impurities rise to the surface and are removed, while the pure metal is used for various purposes. All these ores were lying in the mines of the world for centuries, and people did not come to them until in the last 2-3 centuries. This oil was lying under the earth, and we never brought it out until we reached this so-called age of enlightenment. Wherever human hands join into this progressive evolution, it becomes emergent evolution. Our intellect is like an ore, need to eliminate its impurities. Next is in metaphor one, if human hands join in the natural process, they can alter the floodplains, for example, conserve water through dams and use it for irrigation and producing electricity, etc. The Quran continually invites us to think and reason about everything physical and non-physical in this world, and to be creative in order to bring out the best for the good of the whole of mankind. So essentially what we do is that we should keep looking at it, even during the week and after week. and all our life, that what best we can do around in the world in which we live, individually as well as collectively. For this, the Quran has given us the permanent values which are immutable and will always lead to producing good for us, i.e., freedom from fear and greed. Now, some more reflections on this verse. وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Further reflections. It also points to the phenomena of the human self's development, which when we go through the trials and tribulations of life. We also become aware of our own weaknesses and limitations, and our latent potentials emerge, which were hitherto lying dormant, hidden away from our eyes. This is stated, for example, in the case of Hazrat Musa, وَفَتَانَكَ فَتُونَا, i.e. passing one through tough trials in life. We can look at that verse in which the story of Hazrat Musa is covered. His whole account is covered in this chapter 20. A lot of points are covered. Over there, Quran says that you went through all these trials and tribulations of your life, and now you have reached that stage where Wahi is going to come to you and is going to make sense to you. And ours is the same case. The more we learn, the more challenges we face, the better comes out of us, and we come to know many aspects of the Quran which were hidden from our eyes previously, and it is an ongoing process. Through a normal evolutionary process, the human world keeps progressing at a normal pace throughout history. However, if human hands join this progressive evolution, then its pace can be accelerated. For example, through the hands of Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen. The examples of Hazrat Yusuf and Rasulullah ﷺ and other Anbiya and human beings are presented as models in the Quran. And they were human beings like us. Nowhere Quran says that those human beings, if they could do it, we cannot do it. The efficacy of the Quran as a recipe and formula is still as effective as it was previously, because Allah is Hayyul Qayyum, He is present and He is here to help us. It is our job to get maximum out of it before we leave this life. There is nothing static in the universe and in the human world. It is visibly dynamic. Very obvious. We can look at around us what is going on the planet Earth. As students of the Quran, we need to be enthusiastic and driven to learn as much as possible in order to explore as many aspects of the human world as possible. So we have to create that yearning, that urge within us, that within the means available to us, how much more I can learn, how much more I can explore within the means available to us. This will make available to us numerous examples of this value, which strengthens our conviction that whatever the Quran has revealed is Haqq. It is Al-Haq, and it will prevail if we keep making efforts in this direction. Next is by pointing to what is good for mankind, the Quran has laid bare before our eyes Haqq and Batil, i.e. good and evil. A tremendous favor done by Allah through the Quran for us, that some of the things which we would have taken probably a few thousand years to understand, these are laid bare right in front of us in its pristine form. All we have to do is use our intellect and reasoning individually as well as collectively. What, i.e. good and evil. What we make available for others survives and gives life. All other dies with our physical death. It's that simple. For this, Allah has asked us to establish Rububiyyat as a system as it exists in the outer world, i.e. make Him Ilah in our life of the world, that is, Wafil Arde Ilahun. No human being can deny that this is Samai Ilahun. All human beings, even those who are atheists, also think of an intelligent creator or intelligent design about the outer world. But that is meaningless unless we bring Allah's Wahi into our own life, where the conflicts are. It's interesting that we, living within the conflicts and accepting these as normal, we are thinking of the outer world all the time. Whereas what matters more is that after thinking about the outer world, that is thinking of Allah as the creator of the outer world as well as of the human world, we should come towards our own world and try to organize it in the light of Wahi. Now finally, why it is important to know وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسَ. Now this slide I added towards the end because I thought this should include some of the values which are prevalent in the human world at this point in time. And we can witness the functioning of these values for the good of mankind, not for one family or tribe or party or nation or a group of nations. for whole of mankind. So when Quran says amma ma yanfa'un nasa, it draws our attention that what is good for whole of mankind. So we should keep it in mind as students of the Quran that it is about whole of mankind. It is global. And of course, it has to start from a small Jamaat, from a small platform, a small collection of people, but ultimately it expands to everyone. Now we need to look at some of the obvious values being pursued in today's non-being world. The first value is might is right, well-organized system of hegemony. All problems are arising from this. And we can see it all around us in the world. Divide and rule, divided minds will always promote divisions and thrive on this. Ends justify the means. Very commonly we hear as well that whatever I want to do, I will use every means to get there. And we have seen these regime changes, for example, what kind of a means have been used. Even if ends are right, any means can be used to reach these. So this is the kind of mentality we have of minds who are not guided. Survival of the fittest. This is a purely animalistic state of mind, a value of animalistic level. Animals do not have a self. Human beings have self. We have emotions, we have desires, we have feelings, passions, sentiments, empathy, sympathy. So human beings have to be at a level of creating balance. If somebody is left behind, we have to look after them. We have to do ihsan on them. Human beings are not equal. They say these words but deny it practically. I have seen it myself as well, that people's faces change when I say all human beings are equal. And obviously they do not consider that those in Africa or of different color are not equal with them, because it is might is right. So whatever they say, they want to take advantage of that. Because if they accept equality, then they have to go a bit further, and all those problems which are created because of inequality, those have to be dealt with. Majority cannot go wrong. This is another false value. This is the basis of democracy, that if 51% say day is night, then it becomes night. And if somehow people can manipulate the system and get 51%, then of course might is right is the one which works. And all these values are interconnected in today's world. Life ends with death. This is the basic premise on which we see the world around us, i.e. when body dies, our brain is also dead. Hence, nothing survives our physical death. This is a purely animalistic existence. Of course, we got intellect and reasoning, and we use that to exploit each other. Success in life is defined by material possessions and wealth. And in this, again, life in the hereafter doesn't even come into it. Accountability does not even come into it. Every nation should work for its own interests. And this is a recognized value even within the United Nations Charter. There cannot be any limit on the extent of accumulation of wealth in few hands. Very obvious. There is no accountability in this life as long as we are not caught, all is fair and acceptable. And this is how the whole system functions in every country, that those who can get away with their misdeeds, they will keep doing it. God operates in the universe and has nothing to do with the human affairs and its functioning. Here man-made laws work, and these laws are to be made which favor the rich and powerful. So Allah is operating. Yes, God is operating in the universe, and He has created this universe, and all laws are functioning. But in our human world, we will do whatever we like. Allah has nothing to do with the human world. We make laws, we control human beings, we enslave them, we exploit them, and we can do whatever we like. There are no permanent values, only relative values which keep changing according to human desires and biases. Whereas we know permanent values exist, but that does not mean that we have to accept them. But the results we are getting in this world are because we are going against those permanent values. So that is the thing we have to keep it in mind. We can see from these values that the world based on these foundations can never be free from fear, grief, conflicts, injustices, exploitation, class struggle, rich and poor divide, and imbalances. And we can keep adding as much as possible. There are books and books and books written on these aspects. And these are not the only ones. We can always add more to them as we observe and experience in our life in this world. And with that, I come to the end. Thanks for sparing your time and sharing this presentation.